Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 604 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. And episode number 604 is a deep dive episode, and tonight we're going to let Bill take us at least part of the way through the world of VS Code, and we'll find out how useful it can be. At least I hope so, because I'm really into this topic and I want to know more about it. And hopefully we'll be somewhere short of Emacs land, but we'll get into the open source versions and the real version and all that stuff, which are all Linux native. And we'll find out more about that. But before we do, let's introduce ourselves. For the on assignment, Cheryl, W5MOO. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
And I'm going to sit here and make some notes and perhaps have questions. And hopefully your discussion will prompt some, but I'm just going to let you take it away and walk us through Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, I just want to preface all of this with, this is not an advertisement to change out your IDE of choice. B, this is not in any way an endorsement of using this as your only sole code editor, or this is the magic editor of choice. This is just a tool that I happen to use. And I was showing Russ some of my interactions and stuff with it, and I use it for work. I use it for just about everything. We're going to talk about that, Steve. Yeah, there's when we talk about VS Code or Visual Studio Code, we're talking about basically Code OSS. So Code OSS is the open source foundation upon which Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio or VSCodium is all built on. It's developed by Microsoft, so you're not getting away from Microsoft if that's what you think you've gotten away with since you're using the Code OSS version. It is literally developed by Microsoft in collaboration with the community. It's under an MIT license, like almost all the other Microsoft tooling and SDKs are. So that's no big surprise. Code OSS provides comprehensive code editing, navigating, debugging, extensibility, integration with existing tools, forming core of the edit, build, debug cycle for developers. That's just the bullet points on that. So when we add Microsoft Visual Studio Code to Code OSS, so they take that core, that Code OSS core, and then they add some proprietary elements that are very specific to things that make, working in a Microsoft ecosystem better. There's GitHub Copilot already built in. There is all the Azure stuff is built in. So you don't have to kind of go and add extensions for that and everything else. So it's really targeted for Microsoft's ecosystem. However, you can use it for anything. I have Visual Studio Code running on AWS. So I have all the AWS plugins, and I can maintain all of my Lambdas, services, logs, everything else directly within the context of Visual Studio Code, which, is the Microsoft one. And then the VSCodium, which is the other community-driven project, it also is built on top of Code OSS. And the primary difference here is that this is the one that, it has a different marketplace for extensions. So it uses a different marketplace for extensions. However, you can still load all of the Microsoft extension marketplace extensions into your VSCodium because they all use the VSX registry to actually do that. So there's really like not a huge amount of difference between the three of them when it comes to just basic usage. And I don't know what more to say specifically on that. You can choose any one of those, and you most likely will have the exact same experience. If you're looking for something specifically or interoperating with like Azure infrastructure, obviously the Visual Studio Code is going to be your secret sauce because that'll have some of the extra bits and bobs for doing that and .NET development and everything else. So, I use Visual Studio Code everywhere. So on Linux, I'm using Microsoft's Visual Studio Code, even though I don't use GitHub Copilot and I don't use Azure. And I also use it on my Mac. I use it on all my Windows boxes. And that's just the one I settled on. I could install Code OSS directly, but I don't see the need because I'm used to opening it up and it looking the same on every environment. And so I'd rather just have the exact same tool everywhere that I go. So let's talk a little bit about the general product. So we'll stop talking about which version we're talking about right now because we're just going to consider them all the same with the user experience. Code OSS, and of course now I'm talking separately, you generally can find in the repository. The other two, I believe you normally have to install from the websites. There's easy ways to install it. There's, Bash script installer. There's possibly PPAs and Flatpaks and all that other good stuff. But check the individual sites for, your specific system to get it installed. I don't think we need to go through that specifically. So the editor itself is basically just kind of like an IDE. Once you launch it, there's several ways to instantiate a session. One would be just, hitting your start button or your super launcher key and just bringing up code. And then at that point, you get a little welcome screen, and then you can either open a file, open a folder, what have you, directly from that page, or you can go up to the top and you have the normal selection of stuff that you would see in any text editor, like, file, edit, selection, view, blah, 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 blah. So nothing special there. What you can do is if you are in a terminal session and you are in a specific directory and you want to open up code in that directory, you can just type, code dot, code space dot, and it'll open up a session of Visual Studio Code or whatever directly in that directory. And then that will be the folder that you open. So when you look on the left of your screen where you have some options, paneling, I guess tabs, panels, I don't know what you call that. Do you have an idea, Russ? I'm not a UI guy.
I usually call it a tab or on the left-hand side, like where it shows your folder list. I guess, it's like a vertical tab, I guess you would call it.
So you get on the left, you have a vertical tabs, and you have an open area where when you click that, you have what's in it. So the top one, of course, is the Explorer. And if you open it up in a directory, you'll see your entire directory sitting there, your structure, and you can tab it out and look at it like you're like in a little file browser, which is really cool. And then if you click on a file, it'll automatically open it up in a preview on the right-hand side and in the actual editor itself. If you decide to start editing the file, it'll keep it open. If you don't want to edit it, you can just click onto another file and it'll just keep that same text window open and just use that for rendering the contents of the other file. So you don't have to worry about opening up a zillion tabs all at once unless you really want to do that. You can, the next tab down is a search tab, which is very useful if you have a pretty large code base and you're looking for something very specific. And you can do a full search and replace here. So like I was looking at changing one spot in a rendered website that had certain words in it. And I'm like, I can't remember if that's actually in the HTML. Is that in a TOML file? Is that on a YAML file? Is that here, that there? In the project, you can just start typing and then it'll tell you which files that particular search is found in quite rapidly underneath of it, which is kind of useful in a preview of that file. And you can kind of click into each one of those and it'll show you that file if you want to see that. You click on a line, it'll bring you right to the line where it's founded at inside of that file. So, I mean, that's a pretty slick feature. Yeah, you're going to say, well, I have that in GVim or Emacs. Yeah, good. They should have that. These are creature comforts that every editor and IDE should have. So that's pretty much it. I mean, if you want to do a search and replace in there, obviously you can do that. You can also do the old school, Control H, and then you do a search and replace too out in the middle of a file. So all the usual kind of suspects for editing will work. Unless, of course, you're on a Mac, then it's replace Control with whatever. Was it Option or Command?
Command.
So, yeah, Command. And until you try to do, Command Q in Minecraft, and instead of throwing the line of inventory, it kills the application. Way to go, Mac. Anyway, the next tab down is source control. So obviously, you don't always have to use this, but it does have a good Git integration. I'm pretty sure that's on by default. I could be wrong, but I think it is. Do you have it in yours? Just wondering, Russ, because I'm not using a vanilla copy of this.
It's in there, but I don't know if it's turned on or not. I haven't actually done any source code like versioning and stuff because right now it's just vibing, but I will be doing that shortly. So, yeah, in general, it should be there. If it's not, it's probably because I have an extension on there. I do use an extension called Git something. What did I call it? Git Lens, because it's a better viewer for looking at files. But that's normally I look in individual files for stuff like that. But it does have built-in diffing and everything else, as any editor should. The next tab down is your run and debug. So this is basically where you can actually run a file or debug. The very first time you do that, depending upon what kind of file it is, it may ask you to do some initial settings. Nice part about the debugger, I'll at least tell the experience in my Python projects, because I normally do a lot more debugging in Python inside of this in the larger projects. You can run, well, I mean, this is probably normal for everything, but you can run multiple debug sessions at the same time. So like if you have a front end and back end, whatever, you can actually run it all directly from this, and you'll have different terminal windows that it creates, terminal window sessions that it creates inside of the editor, where those particular applications are outputting their standard out. So that's pretty useful. I know I normally have lots of stuff going all at the same time because I hate doing everything inside of Docker and stuff like that, and it's much easier for me to just spin up all my services that I want to check and test and debug, straight in and out in multiple sessions within the context of my editor. Your mileage may vary. I have used this occasionally to do .NET projects. Normally I'm in Visual Studio when I do those. But on occasion I have done debugging and stuff directly in Visual Studio Code. It works fine too. I just I'm used to the old very proprietary version of Visual Studio on some of the projects, so I've kind of gotten used to always doing that. But the run and debug should work for any environment that you have set up. If you use Python, it'll detect your various environments. If you have a .venv, a virtual environment set up for your directory, it should automatically detect that. It's pretty smart when it goes in and looks at your directory. So it does some inspection of what's actually there. So I know when mine goes in, it already knows like, oh yeah, I'm in this version of Python for this project. And then every time I do a run or debug within it, it always uses the context. Even if it spins up a new terminal session, it always uses the context of the virtual environment while I'm in there. So that will work with anything else that you use a virtual environment for. Yeah, debugging, it's, find some code here to look at real quick. So, and of course the project I have open is a website, so that doesn't work. Let me find a different project here just so I can see something that is a little bit different. Now I'm going to be picky which one I'm going to go into here. Let's go into that one. Well,
open code in here, and then we'll bring up a CSS file. Yeah. Who cares? I don't care about that. Yeah. So if you're debugging a file, and I don't know if this is, it's the same in everything I've always used it in. So like if you're in a file and you want to have a stop, you can make breakpoints. You can make as many breakpoints as you want. You basically just click pretty much to the left of the line number in the display, and that'll create your breakpoint. If it's not a valid breakpoint for the language, sometimes it will prevent you from clicking there. I'm just noticing right now that it doesn't stop me from clicking in certain spots, which is weird. This is the difference in Visual Studio and a C# project. So, yeah. So anyway, debugging, stop breakpoints, it works as expected. Any modern IDE, whether you're using Writer, Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio, OSS, Code, anything that can actually do a debug session should have the ability to do breakpoints. So that should be no surprise that that's there. The next thing down on the tab, the vertical tab, is the extensions. And this is kind of where you can download everything that's out there. Now, these extensions, think of them kind of like browser extensions. Once you start adding too many, you probably have too many. You should try to keep your list down. Also, pay attention to where they come from. Much like a browser extension, something that can read everything is probably, you want to be pretty mindful of what you're opening with this editor. And if you don't trust the vendor of the extension, I would not install the extension. So, yeah. So generally, anytime you open a file inside, so, if I'm opening up like I have an XAML file, an AXAML file, AXAML file open right now. When I go into the extensions, if I just search for stuff, it'll actually generally recommend extensions if I don't have any the very first time. It'll say, hey, this is a C# file, or this is a XAML file. You may want this extension. So it'll bring you over to the extensions with a filled out search expression, which is kind of cool because I don't really pay attention to the search expression until I see it using search expressions in there, and like, oh yeah, there is a cool syntax for searching for stuff. But you can definitely pretty much for any file type out there, I'm not going to say every, but like any file type, there's probably something to help you either figure it out, code highlight it, syntax highlighting, everything else. I mean, there's already a bunch of built-in default ones that are in there that are in the code version. If I go into the extensions for VS Code, I mean, you have already handlers for doing bat files, Clojure, CoffeeScript, C++, C#, CSS, Dart, diffs, Docker files, Emmet, F#, Git, so Git files and Git instruction files and stuff like that. GitHub, Go, Groovy, Grunt, Gulp, Handlebars, HTML, Java, Jake, INI files, JavaScript files, JSON, and the list goes on and on. So there's a bunch of built-in ones just for just sanity, and they're already there, so you don't have to worry about just basic stuff. Some of the other extensions can give you additional functionality, which you access via your command palette, which is kind of like the secret button. We'll get to the command palette here in a minute. But that's where you'll kind of get everything. And I'm just trying to think. I think the rest of my stuff is related to what I'm doing. If you happen to put an AI with your system, like I have Claude on mine and also GitHub Copilot, it does put a tab down there for your agent sessions, so you can see your chat histories and everything else within the context of that. Okay, I don't need that one. If you have testing code. So if you're in a project base and it understands the project, like if it's, C# or Python or whatever, and you have an entire test suite, it actually should bring up, if you have the Python installed and the Python module is already up and running, it should bring up a little test tube in the same little vertical tab there for testing, and it should expose all of your tests. And that's also where you can run your tests, you can debug your tests, and everything else. So that's kind of neat that you get that added benefit when you're working in the projects that have testing. So down in the bottom of that same vertical tab, you also have an accounts. So this is where if you're going to have an account and you're going to back up your settings and sync your settings, this is where you would do that. Surprisingly, I don't use that. I should, but I take the 5 seconds it takes to make my editors all look the same. So, and in the bottom you get the gear palette, which is basically, or the gear, which is like access to your settings. Also gives you the shortcuts for your command palette. So that's where you find profiles, settings, extensions, tasks, themes, checking for updates, and everything else. So that's basically all the vertical tab that you have. So this would be everything on the left side of your editor when you're looking at it. Down at the bottom, depending upon what kind of directory you're in, I have 2 different ones here open. Let me see if I can see my other one, because this one is not in source control. Yeah. So on the bottom, so the status bar for the application, if you happen to be in a directory that's in control, in GitHub and you have Git repository, whatever, it should show you your current branch, and if you have anything that's been detected as problems for the language, and that would be dependent upon your extensions for handling the various languages and stuff like that. If there's something related to a project, it'll have that. If there's any special things that are related to that particular file or project, like mine shows that which project I'm in inside of Visual Studio, not in Visual Studio, sorry, inside of a .NET project. So it shows me I'm in a testable app project. So that would be a sub project for the solution. Debug settings, it shows me a little bit extra things. If I want to debug on a specific CPU, I have access to the settings right there. To my debug profile that would normally be visible inside of Visual Studio. This is a .NET project. It also tells me that if it has a solution file open, what the solution file is. It also shows me on the current file. Now this is an extension for sure, because I'm pretty sure that's an extension. Yeah. So it shows me the last changes on the file and who made them, and it'll actually, if I click it, it'll show me the diff between the file I have and the file before pretty quickly. That's probably Gitlins. So if you're big into Git, it's definitely a winner to have. So you can definitely look at your blames and stuff like that pretty rapidly. Again, it has a context for your cursor where it's at in the file. Line, column, what your indent is set to, and yes, minus spaces always. But you can set it to tabs if you are, a homicidal maniac or something like that. If there's specific encoding on the file, it'll show that. It'll also show how the end line sequence is. You can change that if you want it to end with just line feed or carriage return line feed. You can change all of that. Also shows you which language mode you're in. And then the extra things show, mine shows which, I'm just looking at this. There's a notifications bell too. So I think the other 2 things are specific to my particular setup here. I will say that I almost never use Visual Studio Code for editing one file. So that's not my particular use for it. As a general purpose editor, I think it's too much of an editor. So I normally don't use it outside of the context of a project. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't occasionally pasted something in there to take advantage of quick formatting. plopping a very ugly JSON in there and say, make this pretty, or grabbing some HTML and pasting it in there and saying, format this so it's not like all, ugly and it's properly indented and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll do that if I'm using, if I'm trying to inspect something and I can't really visualize or look at it, I'll use it for that. But like for an individual file edit, you'll most likely find me using something along the lines like Vim or Notepad++ or something other along those lines that are not really project based. Okay, let's go across the top real quick here and see if there's anything specific that just on the application itself. I'm not seeing anything. There's inside the selection, you have the usual select all, select you have various ways of selecting stuff. You can select, the same set of letters throughout the entire file. So if you're changing multiple variable names and you misspelled it, you can actually change them all at once through the editor. There's a bunch of like fancy gimmicky command sequences and stuff like that I don't use. So I can't really explain those, but you've probably seen them in various other viewable screenshots of editors. Yeah. This thing does everything just like, Sublime does everything back when Sublime came out, and, name your editor and it probably does it too. So again, this isn't like this is the best editor, blah, blah. It does very similar things to everything else. The command palette is kind of where you access everything that the extensions bring to the system or all the built-in stuff. So normally in the context of a file, it tries to narrow that down. If you just bring up the command palette by itself, it may sort all the options, kind of like mine right now on this window is showing .NET stuff. Let's see what this one. So this is command palette. Yeah, that's the same thing. So outside of the context of an individual file, it seems to not really change anything. So you get the same list of items here. You can search inside of the command palette if you're looking for something. Some of the items inside of the command palette are exposed as actual like right-click items. Like my special favorite one is the format document one. And that generally works well with if you have specific formatters for each file type, which you do by default for some file types. If they're a custom file type, you might have to have an extension to do that. Or like if you're really specific about how you want your SQL code to be formatted, you can use a SQL formatting extension that will give you all kinds of customized ways to do formatting. But yeah, that sort of just gets back into extensions. So the command palette, again, access directly to everything. That's kind of a way too. You can see how much stuff you have in your system. I'm trying to think if there's anything I don't know in here. I've never seen that before. But yeah, just know that like everything you add can be accessed through that. And then the very top, you have let's see, is this the file you're in? Yeah. So this actually Avalonia samples. Yeah. So this actually has the project that I'm in that it's showing right in the dead center of the screen. If it doesn't have a context to the project, so I have like a whole website open right now. It has my root directory name in the very top. If I want to search up there which file, I can also do the search at the very top of the screen. The next little thing over is access to your chat window. If you have GitHub Copilot or you have Claude, you can see that there. Claude, if you install it, has its own little button, so it doesn't use the built-in chat window. So you may notice that like I can toggle both GitHub Copilot and Claude at the same time on my computer here right now. let me get that out of the way. And then on the top right, you have different ways to customize your layout. So how you want your various windows to show up or your panels to show up. So if you want the Explorer to be down at the bottom, or your editor to be along the left side, you can do that. You can just customize it however you want. So it's much like any other editor. You can kind of move stuff around, and then it'll always save those changes back to your file. So the cool part too on this, if you do sign in, you can sync everything up. If you don't want to do a login with the editor, you can actually just save your JSON file, which is the actual settings file for this. Let me try to get, let's see, can I get inside of this? Let's see here. I was trying to see here. Yeah. So inside of settings.json. So normally in your config, so like in mine, it's my home directory, it's .config /code/user and settings.json. So that file there, you can copy or sync between your systems. This will take care of like settings, like if you have layout settings, fonts, color themes, stuff like that. Do know that like if you have a specific color theme and it's not downloaded in a new install and you try just bringing it over here, it won't work. I mean, the color theme won't work. Your editor will still work. It'll complain about the color theme. So you'll have to download that again. If you do sign in, it will actually sync everything over, including your installed extensions. And then every time you launch in a different place and sign in, you'll get exactly the same settings, exactly the same extensions, exactly the same everything everywhere. So it's, that's cool. And, also for some people it's creepy. So you may or may not want to do that to your editor. I don't log in on these because I don't know. I just never have. I probably do have a profile somewhere. Obviously my Visual Studio profile would probably count as one of those, but I know I probably have a personal one that's randomly somewhere. Probably. Yeah, I probably haven't logged into it in a long time. So go ahead, hack it. Okay, so let's talk about some of the added extensions that I put in here. I'm a .NET developer with a heavy focus on using SQL Server, and I also work a lot on Python, and then that comes with all of the other things that come along with that. Like I'm in two different environments. I'm in AWS and I'm in a internal Kubernetes cluster, and I do everything from Terraform to SQL to individual C# code to everything else. And then at home I do whatever I feel like. So I have a different set of extensions on the home computer. But basically, like the main ones I have are obviously the language specific ones. If you're doing Python, I have like for extra, I have like PyLance, and then I also have Jupyter for doing Jupyter notebooks. I have the Rough extension in there as well to implement using Rough on my files directly in the UI. You can always just use Rough from the command line if you want to do that. That's kind of the super linter / everything tool written in Rust. I have container tools for doing containers, Docker DX. I have some odd ones here that probably most people would never use. I have ZPL for doing Zebra printers. There's a special formatting language to talk directly to the printer, and I just happen to have a ZPL add-on to do previewing before I actually deploy code to the printer. Just a weird thing. VGL is another oddball one. That language is for working with the scripting language inside of a sample manager laboratory information management system. So it's a proprietary little language, but somebody wrote a plugin for it, and I have a plugin for it. So it does all the syntax highlighting and everything else for me. It's just a creature comfort, really. It doesn't really do any magic stuff beyond that. I do have the winter is coming theme on every one of my machines. I saw it like, I don't even know, like what, 4 or 5 years ago at a .NET conference. They happened to show it as like a theme this guy was using or this person was using. And I kind of liked it. So I'm like, I switched everything to it back then. And I've been using it ever since. And it's probably been more than 5 years. Some of the other things I have, obviously I have Claude. GitHub Copilot is already built in. So, I mean, I have that. Git Lens. If you do a lot of Git stuff and you have various, interesting histories for all your files and a lot of people committing and stuff like that, Git Lens is pretty good. That's, I don't know if that was formerly anything else. That's like from like Git Kraken and everything else. I have a remote SSH plugin as well, or extension, and I don't know why the report. This is the Remote Explorer. I don't even know what I'm typing. So I've been using the remote SSH primarily when I'm working on a project for a website right now that I'm running locally here on the machine that I'm recording from tonight. But I'll do additional editing and previewing from another machine. So instead of like remoting to this machine and trying to open up the, like using TeamViewer or something like that, or No Machine, and actually bring the screen over, I just have my Visual Studio or VS Code connect via SSH and attach to a certain directory. That directory is the same. And then it acts very natively. And it actually does install the VS Code server component. So it can do more stuff. Like you can actually install extensions that you have on your remote client on the computer that you're connected to via SSH. So it adds a bunch of like other layers of kind of coolness when you're kind of wanting that local editing experience on something that's far away. And I've used that for quite a while, and it's pretty slick. I'm working on basically a Hugo site right now, which is a statically, stack generated website. And I can make an edit right there, and then of course I have the service running on my the computer here, and then I can just browse the web page, which is also shared because I bound it to 0.0.0.0 on the box, and I can hit it through my Tailscale network. And everything looks like I can do the edits, and then it's already rendering in my test page that I have sitting open. So it's really nice. It's a nice little creature comfort. If you don't do anything with that, then it doesn't matter. Remote Explorer, again, is remote computers. And Rainbow CSV, that's just purely, I dealt with so many stupid CSV files, and I was tired of opening them up in Excel to see everything laid out right. And Rainbow CSV actually it does a pretty decent job. There are better ones now, including other visualizers that I have used, but I've always kind of kept this one around just to have it, when I'm kind of looking at CSV files. And those are primarily the ones that I have installed. This is beyond like the language and dev kits and stuff like that are generally already there. Now I have all the C# stuff because I have, again, the C# account, the Microsoft Studio or professional account. So I have all the other stuff for doing very specific things with C# and stuff like that. But you can you can definitely run and build C# projects without all of that stuff. You just won't have some of the more proprietary tools and stuff like that to do various things like, I would assume not .NET Core stuff, because .NET Core is all open source and everything else is probably for like other apps that behave differently and only work in Windows and everything else. So that's all of that. And I just kept on rambling. So Russ, what are there any questions? Let's see. Let's look at the chat room real quick. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah. Linting's where it's at. Okay. So not a lot of stuff here in the chat room. So just the basic stuff. Visual Studio or VSCodium and stuff like that. If you've ever opened a project inside of GitHub, and you can actually edit inside of a editor, like you're basically looking at the same thing, Code OSS running right on top of the system. If you set up a workspace, you can actually set up a version of that that's on the web and everything else. You'd have the same kind of accessibility to those kind of tools, and it looks the same, feels the same. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with using it as my general IDE for pretty much every project, unless it's so specific that I need to use Visual Studio, the big boy, for it. Or occasionally I've used Writer too for doing C# projects, just because I just wanted to try it out.
Yeah, well, I wish I could say I had a question. I have been, like, as you've been talking about stuff, I have been, like, doing it so I can see how this stuff works. Actually, like, as you were talking about the different types of applications, I was on my podcasting machine, which was probably a bad idea, but I was downloading Homebrew, and then I installed VSCodium on my machine here. And then I have been going through and adding some of these different plugins and sort of figuring out how things work. It looks like, at least on a Mac, the Shift Command P key combination is like where everything kind of lives. It gives you a list of everything you can access that's either installed by default or installed by plugin. I've been looking at GitLens. I've got my new GitLab install, so I merged in I cloned a repo from that, and I've been looking at it inside VSCodium. So this is all really cool, and I can't wait to play more with it, but I have not generated any questions, at least in my head, yet. So, although Steve is typing, so he may have a question.
Yeah, the GitLens thing is pretty slick, especially if you're involved with lots of people on a project. So
that's from. I just installed Warp on this thing too, so now I'm going to see what it looks like when I run Warp inside of VS Code. Oh, and I also installed the Winter is Coming theme, so I'll be using that too.
I use the blue without italics. So if you want the exact one that I use, that is what I use.
I use blue with italics, so because I do not mind italics. So
yeah, well, I just don't like that. That's the nice part about these things. You can customize it to whatever you want.
So I have a little thing down here at the bottom that says Warp. So is it going to open up Warp? Let's see. Remote host, hide Warp terminal. No, I want you to open. It doesn't seem to want to open. So I might have to dick around with that a little bit. But
let's see. I'm just going to see if I can open up Warp. Oh.
I didn't even try and open up Warp outside of VSCodium, so maybe that's let's see what happens if I do that.
It opens its own terminal, so I don't. Yeah, I think I saw some notes about that. Like, I think that's still in progress. There's like an open ticket.
Let's see. I have to connect the GitHub here, so let me do that. So let me just see if I can connect to Warp at all.
Yeah, Warp is just like it's a terminal itself too. So it's a different animal altogether, I think.
Yeah, and I need my authenticator to log into Warp, so I can't do that. So maybe this is a lost cause right now, but I will definitely check it out later. If nothing else, I'll try it on my Code OSS over on the Arch machine later on, just to see if I can get in there and see how useful it is. Claude's integration is really nice, so I haven't had any issues with that one.
Yeah, I've been using that just recently. I normally just do Claude from the command line. So I normally just have a terminal open with that, and then I have the editor sitting on the side, and then I was watching, kind of the edits happen in real time and change, and the files would change right in the editor as I'm watching it. And I have since then switched to I just put in the actual Claude plugin so I can do it directly here. So it's kind of cool. It doesn't really change, I guess, my thoughts on using it. I probably would stick to the command line version.
Well, I like having
for more real estate.
Yeah, in the Code OSS that I have running on Manjaro, I like having Claude in one window and then a vertical split and then the diff and then a horizontal split and an actual terminal window below. So I can actually get into the code after it messes with it. So that works out really well for my brain, I guess.
Yeah, very cool. And Steve says he has VS Code on the work Mac and VSCodium on his Manjaro machine. Yeah,
I will say the difference between VSCodium and Code OSS on these two different machines is indecipherable.
Yeah.
They're exactly the same. So,
yeah, that's why I just installed Visual VS Code everywhere. I guess I never noticed the difference either. And I remember before I even knew that they were the same thing, I had installed Code OSS on one of my boxes, and I didn't notice a difference. So I don't think it matters. Whatever. I think it's more opinionated than anything, right?
Well, at least, on the Manjaro box, PA Mac install code was the way to go for that. And then I tried all of them, VS Code, Code OSS, Code-OSS, and the only one that actually worked out of Brew was VSCodium. So that's the one I went with.
Oh, because you used Homebrew to install it? Oh, okay.
I mean, why not? I assume that there's a Mac OS package for VS Code. I didn't want to go that route. I tried it with Homebrew and it worked fine. So, and I
was trying to think, why would you use Homebrew on a Linux box? But I guess some people do technically. Oh
yeah, no, it's Mac. So
yeah, okay.
And it didn't bring my machine to its knees either while I was recording. I don't think it was just amazing because it actually download Xcode. So,
oh. Yeah. Well, you're on a new Mac though, so that's at least newer, right? It's an M something.
I'm on an M1. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that should be plenty beefy enough to do that. And yeah, I don't think have I used Homebrew on my Mac. Maybe I might have. I definitely didn't. Yeah, I definitely didn't install VS Code that way. I just installed it the old-fashioned way. Install, download, install.
Well, I needed Homebrew on here anyway, just so I could mess with stuff. But so I figured I'd see if I could get the VS Code to install from Homebrew. And yes, you can. It happens to be VSCodium, which is fine. So,
yeah. And Steve says I didn't know any better at the time and used the AUR. I agree at this point. It may just go VS Code or OSS Code or whatever I can get on Manjaro. Yeah, I don't think it really makes a difference. The big thing with VSCodium is it does attach you to the other extension store. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. I don't know the difference of the two extension kind of libraries and endpoints and stuff like that. I guess it's one of those, your mileage may vary. It doesn't matter to me. Obviously, I'm not here to sell VS Code to the world. I just use it everywhere. But I use lots of editors. So.
And where I know I was half asleep no, I was actually in the middle of doing stuff when you mentioned it, but where exactly where do you get to the command palette?
So you can, normally it's, I don't know the key sequence on a Mac because I don't use it. Control-Shift-P is the PC. You can just go view command palette or you right click command palette inside of a file.
That's what I was doing. That's the thing I mentioned before was Shift-Command-P. So,
okay. So it's Shift-Command-P. Okay.
Shift-Command-P. That brings up like all the things and all the sequences and things like that. So yes, I found that right away because actually on the main page, when you start it up and you have nothing open, it says, here's some interesting things. And the first thing you might want to do is Shift-Command-P. So it's like, oh, I'll do that.
Yeah. It's definitely the thing that you use a lot. Now obviously now there's more and more AI stuff in all of these editors. So there's more integrations and tighter integrations. Like we've just been talking about Claude Code. I mean, you can set up MCP servers within the context of your editor. There's just so many things that you can do now with your editors. It's almost like, having Emacs again. So, this is Emacs 2.0. This is, you could probably have an operating system run by Visual Studio Code. VS Code. I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, I can't wait to hear all of the flames and everything else for having this topic and talking about it. But in my selection of using VS Code over all of the options, or probably just using Code in general, because Code OSS is a Microsoft thing, and people generally hate Microsoft for everything, but it is what it is. It's a nice editor. That's all I can say. It's nice. It's a lot of creature comforts in it, and you can definitely maintain your productivity in having tools like this. Yes, I can use Vim and VI just like anybody else, and no, I do not get lost in the fancy sequences. I know how to insert and all that other stuff, and add, and all O and D and X. So yeah. But yeah, this is a nice editor. I like it. I like the color theme I have. Would I use something else? I don't know. Yeah, if it looks similar, probably. You could sell me on it. I'm definitely not going to commit to it. Oh, the amount of guests on Floss Weekly who use VS Code, I think it's okay. Microsoft gives a lot of money to. Yeah. I mean, they are huge, and all of .NET Core is open source MIT, and there's a lot of cool stuff that you can use. Although I do like programming in Python better, just because it's better, easier.
So I pasted in the chat what my default screen in VSCodium on Mac looks like using the Winter's Coming theme. And you can see there at the very top command is Shift Control P or Shift Command P, because it knows that's what you want.
Yeah. How come mine doesn't show that? I'm looking at my home page or my home. Maybe because I have I didn't open the file. I opened the folder. So it didn't give me. Oh, yeah. You must be a brand new user. You didn't just execute the application from the start menu.
I'm a noob. I'll totally admit to it. But I find this fascinating, and I'm definitely going to be using VS Code, VSCodium, Code OSS, whatever, a lot more. So
yeah, I think they've talked about it just recently too, that they're changing up the release cycles on it so they can be a little bit more aggressive with the releases inside of at least for VS Code. I think the cadence on that is going to pick up. I think they used to do a monthly release, and that might be picking up to do more, maybe a bi-weekly or weekly, just to stay on top of anything that comes up. Because obviously with so many people using it and everything else, if there was a 0-day issue or something like that was in there, it's quite important to have a pretty high frequency of updates going out. So let's just hope they're not actually coding it with AI.
Yeah, look for those Claude.md files in the repo. So
yeah, that's the first thing you need to add right now in your git ignores. is dot Claude directory. Get rid of it. Hide the evidence.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was very cool. Thank you for that. I am looking forward to playing with this more and seeing how deep into the weeds I can get with VS Code.
Yeah, like I say, there's not. This is barely even getting into just the basics of it, because there's just so much, and especially for individual use cases, I think things get a lot thicker, and people have a lot more different creature comforts and stuff like that for doing very specific things. And just watching various coding stuff on YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that, you kind of get a sense of how people have their environments set up, and it's kind of cool. And you see this a lot, like Steve was saying, they got lots of people coming through Floss that all are using VS Code and stuff. And yeah, take a look at their setups and stuff like that, and you kind of get some ideas of the variations that you can see the exact same simple text editor that is not just such a simple text editor.
Yep, quite so. All right, well, that brings us down to the end of our topic for tonight. So we appreciate you guys checking it out. And let's see, you put in an announcement. How about that? Oh, and by the way, resources that link to the various different versions of VS Code, including the real one, the VSCodium and the Code OSS, will be in the show notes, so check those out. And I'll just let you hit the announcement before I do the feedback. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see these. Okay. Blah, 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 blah.
Did you not put it in there? How did it show up?
I didn't put it in there. Maybe. Well, I saw Cheryl popped in for a second.
Okay. So Cheryl put it in.
Cheryl put it in. So yeah, there's a Discord message from Steve D509. I was wondering, since it is Linux in the Ham Shack, when you do your intros with call signs, could you also announce which Linux distro you are running? Like hams tell their rig make and model. Thanks for listening. Yeah, we mention our distros all the time. Doing it in the intro. Well, mine would change probably every few months. So, Russ is running mostly Manjaro now for.
Well, I run
desktops?
at least like 6 different Linux operating systems at any given time between work and home. It's like a combination of Manjaro, Debian, Ubuntu.
So we'll say Shack computer,
Oracle. So yeah, I appreciate the suggestion, but honestly, at least if it comes to Cheryl, she could just say she's running Manjaro, and the only reason she's doing that is because I forced her to. And when it comes to you and I, it could change like every single time we do the show. So
yes.
It doesn't seem particularly practical, but thanks for the feedback anyway. I do appreciate that.
So your current Ham Shack computer, though, is running Manjaro, right?
It's Manjaro, yes.
Yeah. So my current one that's connected to my rigs is running Linux Mint, just because that's what I set up on that particular computer. The computer I do the recording on is running Fedora. And then I have a bunch of other ones all over the place as well. So yeah, we do try out different things, and I'm going to look at another variation of Fedora probably during the holiday season. So that's where I'm at. There's a Christmas announcement here as well. Girls and boys can talk to Santa Claus via amateur radio nightly at 7 p.m. Central this month. The 3916 nets will be presenting the Santa Net on 3.916 megahertz. That's, of course, on 75 meters. Once again, this holiday season, we enjoy helping young people and their families have a shared Christmas experience that they'll always remember, end quote, said Pete Thompson, KE5GGY. Prior to each night's Santa Net, pre-net check-ins can be made at www.cqsanta.com. So, and these announcements came from Cheryl, who popped in and popped out. Who's sort of on assignment, and her assignment was to add announcements and not tell us about it.
Well, it's okay. At least she's part of the show. So excellent.
Yeah.
Further announcement, of course, we always put this in at the end of the show. I think I might start putting it at the beginning of the show. If you can help support the show financially, that would be great. Over on Patreon or PayPal, buying some merchandise, and checking us out on YouTube as well. I think next on my list of conversions from WordPress to Hugo is the shop site. So should get a facelift here pretty soon, because all that commerce junk. There's a great commerce thing that integrates with Hugo really well called Snapcart, and integrates with all the different payment gateways and so on and so forth, and can work off of statically generated sites. So I think I'm definitely going to go that way and get rid of all of the security concerns that WordPress presents, and also all the overhead. So
yay!
Exactly. So look for that. The world is going Hugo, as well as should. What's the other one? Is it Jekyll?
Jekyll. Yeah. Jekyll. Yeah. Jekyll. We did a deep dive on it not too long ago.
Yeah. For some reason, I did my first one via Vibe so I could get a sense of the syntax, and it told me that the one I should probably use is Hugo. So I did, and I actually really like it. So, yeah.
The AI was opinionated, huh?
It was opinionated. Well, it gave me reasons. They may not have been good reasons, but it gave me reasons. So
interesting. Yeah, I've tried both. I literally have a couple of sites currently out in Jekyll, and then working on one right now in Hugo. So yeah.
All right, really cool. Well, let's get down to our short list of new subscribers, supporters, and live participants. For subscribers and actual Patreons, we had none. We had a new free Patreon join, Simone Lugaresi. Nobody on Twitter. No, in Discord, we had Christopher Skull Lux and LA1PLA. So welcome. Over on Mastodon, we had quite a few. Carl, N0WQT, Alex, DA2CW, Yanni Teppo, N3VDY, Cricket_Bacon, and John Green. Thanks for joining us over there on Mastodon. On Blue Sky, we had Duo Prism. Nobody bought merchandise this time around, and nobody signed up on the mailing list, which is all good, but, we're out there everywhere, so check us out. And in the live chat tonight, we had Mike K6 GTE, Steve KJ5T, Tucker the technician, who I'm not sure he has his call sign yet, but we'll find out in the future next time around. And jumping in sort of towards the end, Don KB2YSI. So thanks everybody for checking out the show tonight. Hope you have a great week. And in a week's time, we'll be doing our year-end wrap-up for 2025. It'll be a combination short topics, so we'll throw some stuff out there to discuss. We, of course, will be inviting our listeners to join us on Discord, so if you have a microphone, bring it with you. We'd like to hear you for our last episode before we wrap up the year. And after that, we'll be taking about a month-long break, and we'll see you again in January. But we do have one more episode to go, so join us for that. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you all very soon. So for episode number 604 of Linux in the Ham Shack and the On Assignment Cheryl W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.